So you want to be a professional photographer, you are one, or you're thinking about becoming one, you absolutely have to know that the quality of your pictures is not the only thing that matters. Of course you need to take good pictures. Somebody has to like them to hire you, but that's not even the most important thing of being a pro, because plenty of amateurs take amazing pictures and they can't become a professional, because being a professional means that you have to understand business, customer service, marketing, gear that you have to buy, and so many other things. So I want to talk about those most important things when you're a pro. And I also chose a very specific and helpful sponsor today because they can help you with all of those other things you have to do when you have a photo business, and that's Professional Photographers of America. Join a community of over 33,000 photographers and find equipment insurance, education, and business tools made specifically for small business owners like you. Before I get into all these things, I want to paint a picture for you. I live in a pretty small town. I love to go out to eat because I work from home, and I'm not a great cook. I'm not going to mention names, but there's this place and they make some of the best food that I've ever had. They have one of my favorite dishes ever there. But every time I go in, I don't know what I'm going to get. First of all, there's a menu and it means nothing. Like nothing's from the menu is ever in the restaurant. You just have to walk in and know to say, what do you have? They're going to have about 3 things. The likelihood of them having the one thing I eat there is maybe 20%. And they're never happy to see me. In fact, every time I walk through the door, I don't know if it's personal, but they're really not happy to see me. All of these little things add up to a really terrible customer experience. And even though I'm not a complainer and I've been there many times, I find myself not wanting to go there anymore because I don't know what I'm going to get. I don't know if I'm going to get the food I want, and I don't know if I'm going to walk away with any food at all. Let me contrast that to another restaurant near me. The food is okay. It's not my favorite. It's good, but it's consistent. Every single time I go there, they have the same thing. Everything on the menu. They've never not had a single thing that I've ordered. It tastes exactly the same every time. Every time I walk in, they're friendly and they're happy to see me. It takes the exact same amount of time to get my food. I know if I go there, I'm getting what I want, how I like it, for the same price, and they're going to be happy. Guess which place I end up going to more? Yeah, the place that's just consistent. They don't even have my favorite meal. They just have a very pleasant customer experience, and it keeps me coming back. I know that you can relate to this because you live in the world and you've had people come work on your house, or you've gone out to dinner and you know what it's like to deal with a business. So when you start thinking about that relating to your photography and being a professional, what does that mean for you? It means your pictures are not the only thing that matters. So the first thing I want to talk about is gear, because everybody says that gear doesn't matter. Let me walk that back. A lot of people say that gear doesn't matter, but that's absolutely not true. If you're a professional, you shoot with the gear that you need to shoot with. So maybe the new features in the latest camera do not matter to you specifically, but let's say you're a real estate photographer and you decide that you're going to buy one of those cool 360 cameras that allows you to map a house so that they can do 3D tours. Now you're buying maybe a piece of equipment that's a couple $100 or a couple $1,000, but you can upsell your clients and make more money. Or maybe you buy a drone and then you can do aerial views as well. So now gear really matters because it means you have more services to offer your clients, right? And it's not just about real estate photographers, but it's also about family photographers. You know that there are certain times of the day that the light is better to shoot. What if you invested in some lights and then you could shoot more hours of the day, or overcast days don't particularly matter because you know that you could put a gel on a strobe and produce your own beautiful light? That's a situation where investing a couple $100 could end up making you thousands of dollars. So what it actually comes down to when you're a professional is, will the money you spend end up making you more money? And to bring it around to another personal example, when we were first making videos, we realized that cutting different cameras took a lot of time, the editing took a lot of time, and time is money. So we invested about $30,000 in a multi-camera studio with live switching so that we could edit in real time for our live videos, get different camera angles, skip the whole editing process, and just directly post to YouTube. But we made our money back within the first year, and everything after that was gravy. That just meant that we saved money from then out on editing and all the other time that it would have taken to switch the cameras. Another thing that you want to consider with your gear is risk management. what if you're a wedding photographer and you have a card failure and you lose an entire wedding because you only had one card slot with one uber cheap memory card? It would really be worth it for you to salvage that wedding, not only worth thousands of dollars, but the word of mouth that that person is going to give you, and invest in a camera for a little more money that has 2 card slots, or a backup shooter, or a second body, or whatever it is that you need for some redundancy and to make sure that you don't lose all of your pictures. But that's an investment you have to make. So before you decide that gear doesn't matter, or you decide to try to buy the brand new $6,000 camera, ask yourself as a professional, does this purchase make sense? Will it make me more money in the long run? Can I justify the cost of the gear for how much that I will make? And my sponsor PPA actually has a really cool chart about how much you can spend versus how much you're going to net in profit. They have a lot of tools like that for professionals, but that's just one of them. So make sure that you're writing down what you actually make, how much money you're making, how much you're spending on gear, how much time you're spending, and break it all out so that you can figure out how to have a profitable business. And one more tip is that when we first started our business, I actually put an hours tracker app on my phone so that I would know how I spent every single minute of my day. Where was I actually putting my time? Was it in editing? Was it in marketing? Was it making videos, editing them, taking pictures? And when you actually know where your time is going, you can become more efficient, and you can also become more intelligent about how you spend your time. Maybe you're not spending it very wisely, and you look at your hours tracker app at the end of the week and say, I did 0 marketing, or I put way too much time into editing. I need to streamline this process. So that segues nicely into my next point that you absolutely have to know as a professional. You are a business. You are no longer an artist when you are shooting for clients, because they don't really care about the artistry that much. I mean, they're gonna like your pictures or not, but they don't care how much your camera costs. They don't care if you did a Dutch tilt to elicit some feeling. They just wanna look at your picture and like it and not have to think that much more deeply about it, most likely. So you have to understand that you're separating your personality and your personal life out of this process now, and you're delivering a product like a business does. I read this great book called The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. He's a screenwriter. He wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance. He makes this point that he had a really hard time promoting himself as a writer at first. It felt really awkward. It felt kind of like self-indulgent or narcissistic or something, until someone pointed out that he is a business. And when you make that mental flip, you're going to realize that you would do it for anyone else, right? If you were working for a photographer, you would have no problem promoting them. That would be your job. You'd have no problem chasing down the bills, making sure they got paid, making sure that the business was running smoothly. So don't sell yourself short because it's you. Separate yourself from your personal identity a little bit and treat yourself with the respect that you would if you were working for someone else. Here are some ways that you can do that. Be consistent. Like any business that you've dealt with, don't just wing it every single time you have a client. Make sure that you have contracts that they're signing. It's going to save you a lot of headaches in the long run. These are things where you think it's not going to happen to you, but it absolutely will. You're going to have a difficult customer. It just happens to everyone. It's not necessarily your fault. But you can head off all of those headaches by being prepared. So make your website, have your contracts that they sign, have them pay up front. You know how many people book an appointment for a photo shoot and then they just don't show up and you're just waiting at the park for them or something? Make them have some skin in the game. They've got to pay before they show up for that spot, and then have policies in place that they sign, that they agree that if they flake out on you and they don't show up, they're still paying. They can reschedule one time. Have all of these things worked out, and don't be wishy-washy. Don't be I'm speaking from experience. I'm like too trusting. I'm always like, you'll show up. I trust you. Oh yeah, I know. We talked. I know your aunt. I know that. Oh, you'll pay me. No. Boundaries, Chelsea. Make people pay, make them treat you with respect, and make them treat you like they treat any other business. And if you're making people treat you like a business, you've got to act like it. So I know it can be difficult when you work for yourself. You don't have gigs that day, so you go off and you do something else unrelated to your work. No, you have to treat it like it's a 9 to 5. You wake up, you have a to-do list, and you start doing marketing if you don't have a photo shoot, right? Or learn something, do some research, figure out new trends or new locations or a new light, something to set you apart, but you should be working even when you don't actively have gigs. The other thing is to protect your business. We have an S Corp, but an LLC is good enough for most people, and that's going to ensure that if something happens, you're not personally liable. So if somebody sued us, like, none of our personal stuff would be at stake. It's the business is a separate thing. And that's because there are people looking to do that stuff. There are predatory people specifically looking to ruin your whole life. I don't know why people are like that, but they're out there. So have insurance for your gear, have insurance for your business, have a business that's separate, and then make sure you're doing your taxes and everything like that, because you do not want to be the person that thinks they can get away with not doing taxes and then it catches up to you and you're underwater. The IRS is more likely to go after a small business than a large business, even if you're not taking that much money from them. So don't think it can't happen to you. And if you're not sure about all of this stuff like contracts and model releases, that is why I chose PPA to sponsor this video, because PPA makes all of that easy. If you're a member, you get all of this stuff included. You can sign up for gear insurance. That means if anything happens to your gear during a shoot or otherwise, they'll cover some of the cost. They also have an indemnification trust. That means that if you do shoot a client and you lose the photos for some reason, then they'll help you recover that. They have contracts, outlines of all different types, like wedding contracts, portrait contracts, all different things. They have model releases, so if you want to end up using their pictures on your website or something, you can have them sign that.
PPA also gives you customizable brochures to showcase your work more easily to clients, downloadable price lists, and ebooks created specifically for photographers with titles such as Successful Photography Sales and Marketing 101 for Photographers.
PPA even has sales and marketing tips, and their education includes really business-centric stuff. So if you're looking to be a professional photographer or to improve your photography business, check out PPA. You can join over 33,000 other members, and for only $27.92 per month, you can get all of this stuff. It's a really good deal. So thanks, PPA. Check out the description for our link. Okay, here's another thing that the professionals realize, and that's that marketing and networking are important. So even if you have your website set up, it's streamlined. You've got your contracts, you have your modeling releases, you have the page where you send your clients the files, your pictures are great, you've mastered photography. Who's going to know about it? You have to market yourself, and you can do that in an array of ways. There's so many different ways to market, and you oftentimes have to be creative, and you have to consider your strengths and weaknesses as well. So if you're a natural networker, you're blessed, because you're going to meet a lot of people and they're going to keep your name in mind. In fact, I have some really outgoing and bubbly friends, and I'm amazed by how often they get gigs from just like walking into a shop and talking to somebody. Or they'll meet a person and just be memorable enough where the person remembers that they take photos a year later. And it's like, if you have the knack for that, keep it going. Go to conferences, talk to as many people as you can, and talk to people who are going to be closely related to what you're doing. So if you're a wedding photographer, maybe you want to go into the local wedding dress shop and talk to that person and strike up a relationship with them. They might remember your name and recommend you to the brides there. Maybe they'll let you put flyers there and you could, work together. Or you might want to find out who the baker is or the caterer and make these relationships so that there's more word of mouth and you can help each other. That's the other thing. These relationships go two ways. You help them, they help you. You can form an alliance. There's also marketing on PPA, of course. You can put your information on there. You can do online marketing with your social media, make sure your website looks great. And you should just generally study marketing. When we started our business, of course, I was studying photography and taking those classes, but I was also studying entrepreneurship, marketing, and then several other things that specifically related to our business. But you'll want to learn how to reach your customer base. Something I saw another photographer do that I thought was smart was separate his website. So he was shooting wedding photography, professional portraits, and food, and he didn't want to mix them together on his website. I agree with him. That's confusing. Like, let's say you wanted to get wedding shots done and there's food on the website. It can be a little bit, It's not your target market. So he just made different ones and had 3 different websites and marketed himself differently. So if you're a person like me who likes to take pictures of everything, I wouldn't put wildlife and weddings together. If I was trying to book those, I would separate them out. So keep your audience in mind, look at it through their eyes, and don't be afraid to get a second opinion. Maybe you and another photographer could go through each other's processes to see if it's easy, or maybe you could get a family member and be like, Mom, can you try to book my services and tell me if my website is good, or if it's confusing, or if receiving the files is difficult. Do a practice run and get honest feedback. Make sure the process is easy, fun, like the restaurant I like to go to all the time. Just an easy, reliable, consistent experience. If your clients are confused, it's your fault. It's your fault. You're the one who can make it easy for them. And speaking of, my last thing that you should know as a pro is that you're in customer service now. I'm sorry, but you have to know how to deal with clients. And this is actually a shortcoming of mine when I do shoots. I just like to do my work and get done. And I often work with corporate clients in my other work, so I'm a bit spoiled because everyone in my corporate accounts knows how to do everything. They're used to getting invoices. They're used to dealing with that side of thing. Like, I just throw them stuff and they know what to do with it. When you're working with the average person who's not used to what we do, they might not be accustomed to doing simple things like signing a document or a contract and sending it back. So these are all things that you want to be streamlined. You are in customer service. You have to help them with the entire process. You're not just a picture taker or maker anymore. I know that that can be really frustrating, but just think of this. You're not just losing one client if you make someone upset or mad. You're losing every potential word of mouth customer that you get from them and their repeat business. And so if you can fix something or make it better with a client, definitely do that. And I know that that sounds really obvious, but so many times I see posts online where people say, am I the jerk? My client did XYZ and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes they're a little bit the jerk, or they could have made the situation easier for their client. Always just be thinking about how to make it easier. And remember, de-escalate. If they're upset, you don't want to start hurling insults or anything. Take a breather, wait a day before you send that email back. And then another tip I heard about customer support is that you want to match their energy. So if they are making a big deal out of something like, I got my picture and the colors are all off, be like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I'm so sorry. The colors are off. Let's make this better. Let's fix it. You know, you don't want to say, oh, it's not a big deal. You don't want to downplay them. So actually, it would be helpful for you to learn about customer support in general and just kind of study up on that, because that's something that you have to do now, and it can be difficult, especially if you've been a hermit like me for the past few years. So there's so much more to keep in mind. Those are 4 things that I've seen professional photographers struggle with, and I've seen professional photographers who are good at them and they do really well because of it. If you want to know more about those contracts, model releases, gear insurance, and pro education, you can even get certified at PPA. Go down into the description down below and get your PPA membership. It's easy to do. I'm a part of it, and it really will make you more secure as a professional. So thanks.